So as we start this new year, each one of us is striving to have a new and different year for the manifestations that we're all trying to achieve. Our word choices are dictating most of our experiences and how we log them away in our memory. So this series is
about the alchemy of our words. It's how we can choose our words for intention, for purpose, that we can use to empower ourselves to have a better life experience. If you want to just explain maybe what that is to you. What is the alchemy of words, Cherie?
Well, every word that we speak has a morphic field of energy. And, the great alchemists and the great speakers put their words together quite intentionally. They're not just throwing them out there with I didn't mean to say that, right? So the alchemy of how we put each word together is what creates the outcome. The only difference between, manifestation or magic and spells and prayer kind of thing is that conscious thought that goes into each word and the build and the alchemy that they're going to create on the outcome, right? Yeah. When we're praying, often we just ramble a bunch of words and we go off with a general idea of what we recited out, but that wasn't an intentional thought out.
Yeah.
Right? Like when we're manifesting, we're taught to really be clear about the words we're putting together. A spell, again, is always, each word is put together, right, to build upon the one before it, like a writer. Writers use words for an outcome. And we have gotten very lazy and lax, I believe, in our words.
So what, the alchemy is just the order, or what is the alchemy specifically?
Alchemy, right? Like if you were creating pasta.
Okay. It's the recipe.
It's the recipe. I find the word thing to be very similar, right? Because we're dancing with people.
Yeah.
In that space. And if we're not clear about what words we're putting out, this person doesn't know what you're intending in your mind around this mess of words you're throwing at them.
When you said that, for some reason, that easy bake oven came to my head, because I'm like, sometimes it would look so pretty going in, and you're like, oh, this is so cute, and then it would come out like this monstrosity on the other side. Like, all it took was this little toaster to take it in and take it out, and it was bad. It's not what you intended.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what you're saying about words.
Yeah, because often people say to me, like, oh, well, I didn't mean to say that. And I'm like, but you did.
Yeah.
So that is a problem.
Yeah.
In your manifestations. You're blowing things up rather than creating.
Yeah.
Right? By that unconscious use of our words.
Yeah.
Right? And, if we've gone through trauma, our initial programming is a bucket of very sour words.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so when we get flustered or frustrated, we dive into that, right, default bucket of not so great words. Yeah. And
it's like picking up, this always happens to me. This, I don't know, I feel like even recently, I always say that's sick or that's dope. And you were like, why do you keep repeating that? Don't.
Yeah, please don't.
Because that has an effect on what we're trying to create. So when you say morphic field, that's kind of how you started out, was talking about words having a morphic field. For anybody that's listening, what does that morphic field mean, or does it look like anything?
A morphic field is a field of energy that has been created by the usage of the word.
Okay.
Right? So if you say like especially for a highly sensitive person, if you say a word like war, that is going to alter the water molecules in your body.
Yeah.
Right? If you're going to say a word like beauty, our body lightens up.
Yeah.
Right? Because we're pulling in everything associated with the word that has been since ages, since it was created over and over. That's why if we're in a church, it doesn't matter your religion. Once they start singing the hallelujahs, like your body is starting to elevate. But that like vibration along with the word, right? And the context with which the word was always used
that makes
is
sense.
pulled in. So if we are like in the middle of a conversation and we bring in a word like disaster, you're changing, it's like you're coughing goo on everybody in the room. Everybody is like,
yeah, and like highest and best, it doesn't attach any of those words to their experience at all, even your own experience, because I know we say that about things that we're talking about. Instead of attaching a label to whether it was good or bad or whatever, like just allowing that space, because whenever you put words to things, it does grow.
It grows. As far as the idea of creating like a manifestation mantra or a manifestation prayer or a manifestation spell, like it doesn't matter.
It's all the same.
It's all the same. We're all trying to create an outcome with our words. Right? So that momentum that each word creates as it builds upon the other, right? Combined with our focus and belief, right? So we have to be in integrity. We can't be saying words that we don't believe. Because like that's not ever going to change anything.
Flopped and wonder why it's not happening.
Right. And then we get into like, this jaded space around what's possible. Right. And it doesn't take a lot. Like one of the masters says, 1 drop of black into the white makes it gray and murky instantly.
Ooh, okay.
1 drop of light or white into the black, right? Just gets absorbed.
Okay.
It doesn't change the black at all.
So when in relation to words, explain that to me.
Well, we have to be very conscious because it doesn't take very many gray words to suck the air out of a room. It doesn't take very many black, gray, heavy words to, make people not want to hang out with us. Right? It changes the molecules of everything in your space. Our plants don't even like it when you're saying gray, yucky words to them. Like our pets don't like it. The water molecules in your air don't like it. Right? So, we're in opposition to everything around us at that point.
So what we're getting to is really our words have power when we have intention and emotion behind them, and the way that we put them together, that's when they have power.
Well, they have power all the time.
I guess in our brains too.
They have power all the time.
Okay.
Right? That's why worry can be our strongest manifestation, because we have every word formulated. Every time we tell the story, we tell it exactly the same way. And the power builds. And with that, with each word, right, the emotion in our body grows until there's a and like your worry is like your reality.
When we're talking about catastrophizing, what does that mean in the terms of the use of our words, and how can we you shape our words to not build this disaster, I guess?
We want to really use truthful words, right? So if you have a fender bender and you call in the word catastrophe, right? Then your body and your environment and your memory of that moment is going to be a catastrophe memory. Right? I had a beautiful woman that went on this amazing trip. Right? Took photos, was raving over and over about how perfect everything was, how much fun she was having, and then went home and after about 3 weeks, grayed everything out, right? And the memory was suddenly okay. Right? Everything was okay. Right? And
the words grayed those little drips, grayed the experience.
Grayed
till
the
it
whole
was
experience.
Black, I guess.
It wasn't that fun. No, not much happened.
You know, one of the most common things I think is heartbreak. People think, okay, well, this person broke up with me. I'm unlovable. No one's ever going to love me again. And maybe there's words around that even that like prevents you, like it almost prevents you from being able to move past it. And that is a sense of like that victimhood that lives there.
Yeah, and that whole space of like somebody having your heart.
Yeah,
what do you mean? Like they don't. Like,
right.
You know, and so when we say he broke my heart, like, you know, you're bringing in like the energy of a heart attack.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You know, nobody can break your heart. What they can do is choose not to be with you.
Yeah.
And that can upset you, and that can make you sad.
Yeah.
And, you know, you need to grieve that, because that's like a death. When that happens, when a relationship ends, is like a death. There goes from us to I.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And we have to grieve it, but your heart's not broken.
Right.
You know, and when we call in that energy, you know, the amount of people that have said that, like, it comes in.
Yeah.
Right? I'll have clients come in and they'll come in a great mood, and they're like start putting words together, you know, and pretty soon they're in tears.
Okay.
And it's like, okay, well, I see that. And what if we took this word and replaced it with that?
Yeah.
Oh, that feels different.
So I feel like, you know, exactly like when we're talking about the words having an energy based on its existence of all time, and how it's used. So like when you're saying that emotion comes in, that might not even be their actual emotion.
No.
It could be the emotion from that word that has been carrying around the sadness and, you know, those things that just aren't ours maybe.
Yeah.
And so we have to be very careful of what bags we're holding, especially when we're talking about situations that are potentially, you know, could be big to little, but we don't want to make them something that they're not, because we are internalizing those emotions.
It's like Munchausen.
Okay.
Right? And that like you're taking on all this like emotion that has been, this word carries.
Yeah.
And making it yours. Right? There's not a spiritual teacher that tells us that emotion is who we are.
Yeah.
Most spiritual teachers say detach from it, run from it, back away.
Yeah.
Right? Because it is information for you to tell you the action that needs to be different.
Right.
Right? You know, Gandhi says happiness is when what we say, what we think, which are both word related,
Yes.
and what we do are the same.
Yeah.
And these two spur action.
Yeah.
Right? And if they're out of alignment, you're going to feel terrible.
Yeah. No wonder things feel like a catastrophe.
Yeah. Right? Because you are.
Yeah.
Like, you're not trustworthy.
Right.
You're not in integrity.
So how can we take authority over our words and trying to be sure that, you know, it matches the situation and be in integrity?
It's time to get out of this mire of a lifelong healing and learn and move into a space of learning.
Yeah.
Right? Learning is different than healing. And when we can get into a space of ownership, we can get quite curious.
Yeah.
Right? Because the game is very different. It's not this minutia. It's like, okay, our whole game here on this planet is to become a fully realized person.
Right.
And that is to be real time. Not have a lag, not have discrepancy between our thought, words, and our actions.
Yeah.
Right? To be able to be in the now is that.
Yeah.
Right? And until we choose that, the now is not possible.
Okay.
Right? Because we're yanked all around. So being able to measure, right, what's going on with your head and create some space between it coming out of your mouth is super important.
Yeah.
And be like, am I choosing words that I am expecting this person to hear?
Right.
And maybe you need to walk in the other room and get clear about it.
You could have the best intentions and exactly like you said, say something and you're like, well, that's not what I meant to say, but it is what you said. So,
well, I think that we take ownership of that.
Okay.
But, you know, because if we said it, there is some intention there.
Yeah.
And it's very manipulative to say there's not. I'm a writer. So, you better write the words you mean.
Yeah.
Right? And, a writer is also writing in that alchemy, right? Because they're wanting their words to have impact on you,
Yeah.
right? Just like the lyrics of a song. They're written with a purpose so that it has an impact on you.
Yeah.
Right? If you listen to a sad song, you're going to feel the impact of the sad song.
Yeah.
Yeah? So when we're speaking, we have to take ownership of that, because that happens without the song.
Yeah.
It happens without the intention.
Yeah.
Right? And it very much happens when we're emotional. Right? So the space between what's going on in our head and what comes out of our mouth, we have to be very intentional. Bite back your words for a minute until you know what you want to say.
I've done that. It's so tough. I'm still learning.
Walk
I'm
away.
still learning. Yeah.
Go in the bathroom.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm going to take a bathroom break. I'll be right back.
Yeah.
And get clear.
But
Right?
it feels like much better when you have control over what you actually are saying, meaning, or doing. So then after the fact, you feel confident. It's like, sometimes after you have a conversation, you feel worse.
Yeah, because
And
you're
it's like-
it's always like you're replaying it.
Yeah, so it's like that if you meant what you said it, and had intention to follow back with what your words were, then you're going to feel a lot better at the end of talking to anyone.
Because you're in integrity.
Yeah.
Right? Now, that doesn't mean you're always right.
Yeah.
That's something to keep in your
Yeah.
head.
I don't
You
know.
can't get into the God space there.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't mean that someone's always right.
Yeah.
It means that their trajectory of choices is trustworthy, right? That means that they're operating from their space of truth as they know it.
Yeah. But be open to more truth.
Yeah.
In different words.
Right. Exactly.
Whenever we're hearing words from other people, is there a way to kind of strip that morphic field so that it, maybe they don't know what they're sending as a negative energy ball your way? Or like, I'm even thinking, sometimes people get so caught up in text messages because it's like you thought they had a negative emotion around it because it's like, okay, and it's like, wait, they might have just meant okay. And, so like, is there a way to kind of look at words differently so that it gives you a different perspective and not get attached from them, because people might not mean what they're saying either. So
yeah, that takes us back to that morphic field and that idea that emotion, right, is who we are. And when we put that emotion is most of the time old and blurry.
Yeah.
And it blurs things up, right? Now, that doesn't mean that we don't ever get angry. Once we're clear,
Yeah.
right, that doesn't mean we're not ever going to get angry, but it's pertinent to the moment. And when it's pertinent to the moment, we more often say what we mean.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? As long as we're pulling from that backload and bringing it into the now, right, we're coughing germs on everyone.
Yeah.
Right? And most often people don't know what you're talking about. Right? So again, that's the contamination of the emotion. Where right now, like, the world is like, oh, my emotions, I'm an emotional person. I'm like, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Right? That is a terrible life, to be constantly in a state of emotion. It's like living in a house with your fire alarm going off all the time, just raging. Right? Emotion should be pertinent to a dissonance, a discrepancy or something.
And that all is just tied back to how we frame it through our words.
Yeah.
How we frame each experience will create that emotion or not, or carry that energy or not.
Or we can process the emotion as the information and use our words to tell the other person, rather than trying to convince them of our emotions, process that information to tell this person what they could do differently.
Yeah.
Because they'd rather just know that.
Yeah.
Like, just tell me what needs to be different so that you'll be okay. The trash is full. Do you mind?
Yeah, exactly. And then that takes all the I always feel neglected, that you don't do that. It's like they probably aren't even thinking about the trash.
No, they're not thinking about it. Like, they're not thinking about neglecting you.
Yeah.
Right?
So attaching those words,
those emotions to
Yeah.
our everyday little things is very detrimental and undermining to our relationship, for sure.
So, like, what if your mind is going a million words a minute? Because we are listening to these songs that make us feel all of these things and do whatever. Like, is there anything that people can do to kind of clear their mind or to detach from some of the words they might have coming up quickly? Is that just taking the space, or what is that?
I think it's truly like about truly having our energy field set up properly, being aware of what you feel like before you entered a space like that, right? And that again is knowing ourselves and being in the now. Right now, this is how I feel. And anything outside of that, like, I'm going to question.
Yeah.
And be like, okay, like, I hear what you're saying, and I'm going to weigh that for some truth. Or if somebody's spouting their old goo at you, you can go, no, thank you.
Yeah.
And walk away. I love Buddha for that. No, thank you.
Yeah.
And it's just like, we don't have to receive people's other negative stuff.
Yeah.
And, even the empaths, you don't need to. You have to learn how to be a responsible empath.
Yeah. Yeah. It's all taking responsibility, taking a step back and going, okay, let me reevaluate what's coming out of my mind, what's coming out of my mouth, and what action that's creating, I guess, or what intention.
Yeah,
and then
because if you take the idea of a spell, right? A person that's writing a spell is writing those words for an outcome.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
If they're casting a quote love spell, they're writing those words for a person to fall in love with them, right?
Yep.
Like
very
just
clear.
like a love song.
Yeah. Yeah.
No different.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
That's what that is about.
Yeah.
Right? So when we can take ownership of that and realize that we're not just doing that when we sit down to write a spell.
Yeah.
Every word you speak is creating your environment and logging away your memory of the events, whether they're real and true or not. So that's something we have to realize, right?
Yeah.
That you're going to call that back up years later and claim it is true. And is that true?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? That makes us feel bad.
Right. Before, I've heard you talk about being able to put your words together like you're going to put them into Google. So what is that? Like, how can we use that analogy to choose our words more precisely?
Yeah. Right? That's the energy of ask and you shall receive. So if we're manifesting and we're really creating a short phrase or we're asking the universe a question, we have to recognize that energy field that is the internet, right? We're walking around in that
space.
Yeah. All the time.
Yeah.
Right? So ask and you shall receive is important. Now we have to recognize in Google the quality of the question is very directly responsible for the responses that we're pulling up, right? Now, are they really relevant to the question you have in your mind? Maybe and maybe not. It depends on what they're reading out of the words that you put in.
Yeah.
Right? Because you refine the question, it's getting clearer and clearer, and Google's going, oh yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
Well, the universe is trying to figure out what you mean all the time.
And so are other people.
And so are other people. And if Google can't figure it out, you're bummed.
Yeah.
Like, the rest of the world is not going to figure it out.
Yeah. So being very clear and concise and even reworking a sentence maybe until you get it to where it's like, okay, this makes sense. It fits what I'm talking about. It fits what I mean. And putting that sucker in.
Yeah. Being silent for a while and listening, right?
Yeah.
And hearing the words that want to come out of your mouth before you want to say them, right? I think I spent a period of time just being quiet.
Yeah.
And I realized as I'm, hanging out with some of these great spiritual people, they don't talk much.
Yeah. Observe.
Yeah, they don't really talk much because they realize that all these words we're throwing out into the universe all the time are creating a very mucky landscape.
Yeah.
So whatever words are coming out of their mouth are very intentional.
Right.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Right? You hang out with some of these people and you're like, okay, Right. They're not feeling the need to stand up and tell everybody how amazing they are.
Yeah.
They're not feeling the need to like throw out all these words to create attraction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They're just silent.
Yeah. And then that draws people because they know that the words that they're going to say are powerful.
Yeah, and are intentional and on purpose and trustworthy.
Yeah, exactly. And that can truly shape our life in so many ways. It, regulates our emotion. It helps improve our relationships. It makes us feel better at the end of every sentence, every thought, because it feels accurate. It feels right, like it's in that alignment like you're talking about. So we've talked about getting in integrity through, doing our coming home exercises. So we've got a course on words available on the Trauma to Enlightenment Academy that is a little bit more expanded on what we're talking about here today.
And it's got some exercises for you to work with, some journal stuff. So, for you to be able to start really measuring your words and taking ownership of the creation of your life.
Yeah. For a brilliant life.
For a brilliant life.
Like, how are you going to take that pen and write something brilliant? You have to choose the right words to do that. So we want that for you. We want you to cultivate a beautiful, brilliant life. So come and join us on the Trauma to Enlightenment Academy, and we'll see you there.